this is all wrong, I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Yes, we've got a Prime Minister who can't tell the difference between a sausage and a hostage. Welcome to Lemberdopic Live here on Unprecedented TV as the numbers keep rising. Yes, that's propaganda, but I want you to watch. I want you to share. I want you to subscribe. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Unprecedented TV. We had a big debate about whether we should just call it USP TV, but that sounds like a cream. So we'll stick with unprecedented for now. It is unprecedented. The reason, by the way, somebody asked me, why do you call it that? It's because unprecedented is the most overused word in the media. Now I've said that, you'll notice it. Everything's unprecedented. Unprecedented heat, unprecedented cold, unprecedented dry, unprecedented storms. Often it's used to justify the unprecedented nonsense about the climate crisis, but also unprecedented migrant problems in this country, which, as I heard earlier on, is all because of Reform UK. Yes, the Labour Cabinet Minister, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, who incidentally is married to Ed Balls, who's now a TV presenter, she actually blamed, this is true, she blamed Reform UK for problems with migrants coming to this country. It's unbelievable, unprecedented stupidity. We'll talk about that with my guest in a moment. What really annoys me is that no one in authority seems to be taking responsibility. And on the mainstream media, which I watch so that you don't have to, they keep saying they're going to fix it. Oh, come on. You've had over a year as a Labour government to do something about it. And actually, hotel residency numbers for illegal immigrants, they're not asylum seekers, they're illegal immigrants. As soon as they set foot on the shores of Britain, they've broken the law because they've come through a safe country to get here. It's up 8%. 8% more illegal migrants, some of whom are rapists and criminals, in hotels. How can this be? What's going on? Can anyone do better than this? Is there anyone in this country who would be a better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer? It could be everyone, but here's one person who'd definitely do it. Bill Ethridge. Bill Ethridge for Prime Minister. How are you?
Well, good morning. What a chilling idea that is. How terrifying. I think people will be heading for the borders and selling their shares immediately at the thought of that.
There are tons of spare boats on the beaches. I owe you an apology, by the way. Just before we came on air, I saw that my useless team, only kidding, has actually misspelt your name in some of the stuff. They left out the E. It's right here because I got them to correct it. Bill Ethridge. Bill Ethridge. Well, yes, I get known as Lempic, even by some of my friends, which isn't very good. Anyway, let's talk about you for a start so that people know why I think you should be Prime Minister. You used to be a member of European Parliament, didn't you?
Yes, I was elected as a UKIP MEP back in 2014, back in the days where we were quite an insurgent organisation of the people. No multimillionaires amongst our ranks, we gave it a good old go, and I was perhaps within the party thought of as more on the libertarian or even moderate. What an awful word that's become, but I was thought of as perhaps a bit more moderate than some of the others in some respects. But I was very much part of the project of trying to get us out of the EU and to develop policies to go forward with that we could try to take seats at a general election, because I always thought winning the referendum wouldn't be the answer. You had to have people in Parliament in order to actually get a proper Brexit and to make proper change.
Uh, just before we go further, define libertarian. I see it myself as a libertarian, and I'll tell you what I think it means. It means letting people do whatever they want as long as they don't harm anybody else. They can even harm themselves as long as they know that they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm broadly speaking on that page. I think it does sometimes get mixed up with hedonism. A lot of people use libertarian. I'm a libertarian. That means I can therefore go and party 24/7 and do all sorts of things, and everyone should just allow me to do it because it's my principles. I'm more or less in favour of the state backing off, giving us as much freedom as is possible within certain reasonable parameters. I think so. Yeah, libertarian tinged, I would say I am. I'm not a complete anarchist, but I do believe that we should have as much freedom as is possible within a civilized state.
I think you're describing a libertine. I would say libertine is somebody who uses the libertarian philosophy to party their way in that hedonistic manner that you describe. I knew somebody like that in Parliament. He's still in politics. So I won't name him out loud, and it's not Nigel Farage, somebody else. And I said, used to be a libertine. He says, yes, but now I'm a parent. Don't tell my kids. That's a complete sellout, but there we go. That's the way it sometimes is. In the good old days, though, in the 90s, when I was first a member of Parliament, there was an awful lot of libertine behaviour in Parliament and a lot of hypocrisy. If I could tell you the things I saw, but maybe then I'd have to kill you, so I don't want to do that. Just in terms of the party, whenever you were in the European Parliament, what was the mood there? Were they libertarians or authoritarians? Judging by the condition of that absolutely, in my view, dreadful failed politician Ursula von der Leyen, they're authoritarian, self-serving fools.
Well, I mean, even within UKIP, we had about 3 or 4 different strands of opinion. We had nationalists, conservatives, libertarians, and people who would call themselves a sort of red UKIP, who basically were socialists who wanted to leave the EU. There was a whole range of different views. Within the Parliament, it was broadly speaking what they would class themselves as being social democrats, which in my view means maintaining a left of centre position, using the power of the state and shaming everyone else into following it because you're a nice person, because you're a centrist. And that's what probably 90% of the Parliament was. And then on either edge, because they had us in a sort of horseshoe shape, on either edge were the extreme communists or the extreme, almost self-confessed fascists and extremists. And we used to sit sort of a few inches away from the real loony right, which showed what they thought of our position in politics anyway.
Did you enjoy it?
I certainly enjoyed the beer. I think there were times when it was enjoyable. There were times when we were sticking it to the man, and it was enjoyable. But there were other times when it was just a never-ending grind. Masses of paperwork to be gone through, the hundreds of votes that no one really had the time to understand what you were voting on. And after 5 years, I must admit, I was starting to think, well, crikey, I'm glad we're leaving because I'm not sure I could last another 5 years of this. It was just a constant grind, never ending. But Brussels is a fine place to visit, and I would recommend it to people who want to go and have a libertine time.
There's somebody once said to me, I have to be very cautious of a country where the men wear nylon shirts and the main attraction is a big rusty atom. But there we go. And then they talk an awful lot about the statue, which in the fountains, which we won't go into too much.
The infant.
Yes, absolutely. All very odd. Right. So let's get into this then. I'm interested in your view of the current state of affairs. This morning, I literally saw the Labour Home Secretary, Vet Cooper, blaming Reform UK for their migrant crisis problems. It seems to me, we'll come to reform in a minute. It seems to be that we've got the worst, I don't want to lead the witness, this is my opinion. We've got the worst government in living history, certainly in my political history, because Keir Starmer is completely useless. He's talking about phase 2. Well, phase 1 was wrecking the country. What are they going to do in phase 2? I mean, what are they going to do? It seems to me that they're completely incapable of managing the country economically and in every other ways. But when it comes to the migrant crisis, they've utterly failed, utterly broken their promises, and now they're blaming everyone else, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, this is an absolutely atrocious government. You're pushing us an open door with me when it comes to saying how appalling Labour is. But this version of Labour that we're enduring at the moment, where it seems their entire approach is to blatantly lie over and over again with an almost semi-concerned look on their face, and just keep lying. And it's really clear that they're not telling the truth. As regards the migrant crisis, to blame Reform is absurd. Reform haven't been in government. The crisis has been caused by successive governments over the years not being tough enough on the migrant issue. I went to Calais in 2015 and actually went around one of the camps and spoke to the people there. They're not fleeing persecution in France. They're fleeing from the fact that they haven't got any money, not much money at the moment, and they want to come over to where they think the streets are paved with gold in the UK. And what their Labour, once again, fundamentally misunderstand people who disagree with them. They'll always say anyone on the right, be it Reform, Conservative, whomsoever, who criticises mass immigration, uncontrolled, who criticises the asylum seekers, so-called, in their hotels, and who points anything out about it, they'll label them far-right extremists, stoking up division, whipping up hatred. They don't understand is actually, in many a case, these political figures aren't whipping up this feeling. They're actually amplifying it out because that's what they're picking up on the streets in the areas they live in. The people are the people who are already angry, already upset about this. The politicians are merely acting as the voice for the people in this case. Some would say some of the politicians are using it as a bandwagon to jump on. But either way, it is purely a case of the anger's already there. It isn't people from Reform or any one of their splinter groups or the Conservatives or any one of their splinter groups. It's nothing to do with that. It's people angry, frustrated, wound up, and they have been for years and years and years, and we've reached a tipping point now where that anger is coming out. And if the politicians don't address it properly, I fear for the future of our country. I want us to be properly democratic and peaceful, and everyone will be able to debate things and talk in a civilised manner. But you cannot keep ignoring people for decade after decade to the point where it's got to now where it's really serious. You can't keep ignoring people without the fabric of society being torn apart.
Yeah, we've basically got a Home Secretary who, Yvette Cooper, whose approach seems to be to lie to us, as they did over the Southport scum bag who murdered the children. Oh, nothing to do with terrorism, and then we discover it was. And he was Welsh, because Axel Rue de Cabana is it's about as Welsh as Lemberdopic, to be honest with you. And I would say less Welsh even, actually, because at least I was born in Bangor, Northern Ireland, but there we go. The reality is we've got this lovely Home Secretary married to Ed Balls, hoping nobody knows, as far as I can tell. I don't know if you remember, Ed Balls interviewed his own wife. He interviewed his own wife on his own program, and I couldn't believe it. No one declared an interest. But this woman, it's turned out she'd rather silence us, rather have digital ID, rather track all of us, and then pretend that digital ID will work with people who've thrown their passports into the channel. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's absurd. And look at the look on her face, sort of evil little pixie face. She's constantly that awful expression on her face all the time, that she's somehow disappointed in us, and she's very concerned about whatever it is she's talking about. And she's had that for decades. She's had that silly look on her face for a long time. Drives me mad. Ed Balls pretending to be a journalist. He's not. He's a former politician who's quite personable and can get onto TV. I met him, actually. He's quite a chatty kind of guy. But to pretend that it's actual scrutiny when it's a husband and wife,
Yeah.
I mind you, perhaps neither one of them wants to admit to being married to the other, but you wouldn't really want to broadcast that, would you, to be honest?
Somebody said to me, why is Ed Balls married to Yvette Cooper? And asked me, and the third party said that way only 2 people can be miserable instead of 4.
Taking one for the team.
But she looks confused. She always looks confused, and then she looks angry. And I would like to have a Home Secretary who knows what that job means. Then we've got Keir Starmer. What do you think of him?
Well, I actually did an interview with Keir Starmer for local radio some time ago before he was elected, and he was devoid of any personality. There was nothing there. I even rolled him an easy cross for him to tap in, asking about what he would do for our area if he was elected, and he couldn't answer it. He is robotic. He is not telling the truth at any time. And what's more, I think he's got it into his head that he doesn't have to tell the truth. I think that he believes he's got a set agenda that he can keep to himself as long as he keeps on telling the people something completely different, because we'll forgive him or forget the fact that on every single time he appears on television, he lies. And it's become a documented truth. You cannot believe a single word that comes from this man's mouth. He's a complete liar, and he's selling the country out. All he's interested in is playing to his EU buddies and to his London lovey lefty friends to make them think that he's such a wonderful, civilized guy. And the rest of us can go to hell. And I think everyone's actually getting to grips and understanding that now.
He seems across. He's such a political wimp. I remember when, in fact, this is it, when Donald Trump dropped his papers. Keir Starmer immediately started groveling around on the floor. There he is. Yeah. Here you are, Donald. Donald can't respect him. How can he? Donald Trump is a very successful businessman. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer is just this mealy-mouthed wimp, I think, it's just an embarrassment, I think.
He's quite repulsive, to be honest, but disgusting to see.
At least we've got a fantastic foreign secretary, David Lammy. He's incredible. I think it's true to say, without fear of contradiction, he's a man mountain. What do you make of him? How did he get there? How did he get there?
Well, I would never pretend to be an expert on the madness of the internal Labour Party, but what fascinates me is that he's said some awful things over the years, dreadful things about various world leaders, accusing them of everything from Nazism to being evil and racist, and racist being used every other word about virtually everyone. And yet now here he is trying to go around the world and cozy up to them and try and be taken seriously. All politicians have a large degree of ego. I think you and I would probably admit that. But his must be off the scale. For him to believe he can pull off people taking him seriously, it's extraordinary. I'd hate to spend 1 second within his brain. It must be a frightening place to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of space in his brain now.
Well, there is. I wouldn't like to rattle around in it, though. Terrifying.
What's that phrase? Somebody said he hasn't got an ego. He's got an eating. He hasn't got a problem. He's got an eating problem. And somebody, I put something out about him the other day. Got loads and loads of hits on X. I said, "What's he actually achieved?" And somebody showed a picture of Mr. Creosote from Monty Python. Frankly, the problem is, I'm not so fussed about their eating habits, but the problem is Starmer. Whatever happened, by the way, to Starmer's little local difficulty with those 3 young men, Ukrainian-born young men, who torched his property? Interesting. But what people find more interesting is what they've done outside politics rather than in politics. They do so little good in politics. People talk about them. I never failed to enjoy reporting the fact that the great David Lammy did Mastermind, and when asked who came after Henry VIII, he said Henry VII. Oh man! So all right, so we've talked about them, had a bit of a laugh there. What is to be done about this country? What can be done to make it better?
Well, we're in a serious situation. I know you and I, when we get together, we do have a laugh about things and enjoy taking the mickey out of stuff. But this is a very serious situation now. Not just because of the things we've discussed, our international standing and the immigrants and the other issues, law and order, but it's also the economy and the finances of the country. We are now way past the point where we briefly touched with Liz Truss as regards lack of confidence in us from the money markets. And there's no sign of it changing. It's only getting worse. In fact, I saw something said that we were paying a moron premium on our debt.
A moron premium?
A moron premium because we continue to go down the same ridiculous road. So it's more than serious, because everyday people who don't necessarily involve themselves with politics will be amongst the millions of people affected if the finances for this country completely collapse and we're subject to some kind of bailout or takeover. And that's how serious all this is. So we need politicians now who are going to not just point out the issue, not just be full of bravado and shake the fist and talk about how awful things are, because we know that. We need politicians now who will come out with some idea of a solution or two, some form of, this is what we want, but rather than a wish list, rather than just wishing everyone could have jelly and ice cream on a Wednesday, let's find out how you're going to deliver that. Let's have a little bit of meat on the bones. And we haven't seen that from Reform, and we haven't seen it from the Conservatives, because they're both apparently doing reviews or internal studies or whatever. But until we can see someone who actually gives a detailed plan of how they aim to achieve improvement, we're in limbo, and we're in a very, very frightening place for our country and its people.
Yeah, well, I want to talk to you about Nigel Farage in just a moment. And I have to ask you a question about his jacket as well. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Before we go into that, here on Unprecedented TV, we're always trying to bring you new kinds of programs. And a new satirical series is out, and I've got something to do with it. And it's called Poor Kids and White Kids. Watch this.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Poor Kids and White Kids. Bill Ethridge, in the first episode of Poor Kids and White Kids, Mehdi, who's Iranian, accused me of being a racialist. He didn't even get the word right. It's unbelievable. I would sue him if we weren't making the show ourselves. But his idea was for us to go across to Calais, across the English Canal, as he called it, and go undercover with the refugees, the asylum seekers, the illegal immigrants, and then come across in a boat. I said to him, well, what happens when we cross the channel and they all throw their passports in the sea? Do you know what he said? We do the same. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it seemed the best plan. Not very long term, that one.
He said we wouldn't get arrested. I said I wouldn't get arrested, and that's why he accused me of being a racialist. Anyway, I know. You need to watch it. He's a nice guy, but he's very misguided. But we put it out anyway. So that's Poor Kids and White Kids. Hopefully you have a laugh on that. Now, I want to talk about Nigel Farage. You're not in UKIP at the moment, are you? Oh, sorry, in Reform, are you?
I've never been in Reform.
Why not?
I don't believe in it. I believe that it's a company initially that was set up to get lots of exposure and airtime for a group of people who thought politics would be a bit of fun, who bought their way into it. And now I believe it's an organisation which is basically selling fake policies and lying to the British people. I believe that they are watching what the latest poll says and just following it, like being led by the nose to say whatever the latest poll says, devoid of principle, devoid of any character, really devoid, actually, of any driving force other than the fact some rich boys who saw what UKIP did and Nigel did back in the day and thought, this would be jolly good fun if we could join in, bought their way into something, bought the star striker, bought the Cristiano Ronaldo in the terms of Nigel, and got themselves a load of airtime and a load of coverage. And because people are desperate, understandably, for an alternative, people are just jumping on board to support this thing without actually properly scrutinising it.
But you have worked with Nigel Farage. Some would say you're a Judas, a turncoat.
I'm not so sure about that, because I still support and admire massively what Nigel did in the UKIP days. We wouldn't have got the referendum without him. We wouldn't have achieved so much change without him. Nigel is a fantastic salesman. And I say that in a complimentary manner. I tend to earn my living from time to time as a salesman. I've got nothing against that. But he's not a prime minister in waiting. And back in the days when he used to be honest about this, he used to say, I don't want to be prime minister or a cabinet minister or anything of the sort. That was never his intention. Always his intention was to affect the national debate, to achieve certain things, and with a bit of luck, push the Conservative, force it, screaming and crying, force the Conservative Party back to the right. It was never Nigel's intention to be Prime Minister, but he's a fantastic leader of a cause. And, you know, he's a great game show host as well. You know, and this sounds belittling, but really, that's a great skill. You know, people earn a lot of money and get a lot of exposure for doing those things. And I've not got a word to say against Nigel. I do know his limitations, but I also know what a fantastic, wonderful patriot he's been for this country over the years.
I spoke to him in 2023 before he was leader of Reform. I said, are you going to go back? And he said, no, I'm semi-retired. I've gone on a different route. I actually like that, Bill. I have a slightly different view to you, Bill, because for me, the fact that he didn't really want to be leader of Reform, didn't really want to go into Parliament, makes him more suited to it, because the whole problem with total fools, in my view, fools like Keir Starmer and David Lammy and a whole bunch of other ones, Nick Clegg, who ruined my old party, is they wanted to be a politician. They didn't know why. They just want to be a politician. With Nigel, he's gone in there because he thinks it's the right thing to do. I was speaking to him a couple of weeks ago, and I actually think he's growing into the role. You just don't feel that.
He's always wanted to be a politician and an MP.
Really?
It was, yeah. I mean, you know, for no other reason than when he lost so many times. And again, that's not me taking the mick or criticising, because I lost a lot of times. And if you fight for a minor party, you're going to lose more than you win. But the fact that he failed to get elected so many times, and it was constantly, his nose was rubbed in it, he was always going to try and become an MP. But to be a prime minister, no. And he was right not to want to, because he's not cut out for that job. That's not who he is. You know, you say he's growing into, what he's growing into is a sense of the country jumping behind Reform and supporting it because it's desperate for an alternative. And he's feeling the authority and power that comes from that, and understandably so. But it's not being used properly. You know, we always in UKIP had policies that we'd worked out. We got costed. We'd got ideas about them. We discussed them. Now, you might say they were rubbish ideas and rubbish policies, and you'd be welcome to. But I could sit here and say every one of them was properly thought through with a proper plan. Reform are following every trend that comes. Nationalise things. Cut taxes by a mile. Give the Taliban money to take back immigrants. It's absolute cobblers. And
but it's the same leader. It's the same leader. He hasn't gone backwards.
Well, it is the same leader who has somehow, over the years, and I understand why, he got fed up and tired of internal democratic debate in his parties and just decided, I want to go somewhere where it's all imposed for me and no one has any say in it. Because as a Reform member, I would say subscriber, you try and change the policies, and I guarantee you can't.
You reminded me of an important thing. Subscribe. You used the word subscribe to Unprecedented TV. We're not a political party.
I recommend it.
Thank you, Bill. You can be a shareholder in that case. The big question I've got to ask you about Nigel Farage. Did he buy this jacket because he spent too much time in Brussels?
Oh dear. Nigel's Nigel's always had a rather splendidly eccentric dress sense, and I put it down to his public school background, where they were all probably taught to be flamboyant in that way, and I think he carries it off jolly nicely. Well done, Nigel.
Do we all have to dress like that if he's the Prime Minister?
Well, no, I think that might be the one thing that punctures his support, actually, if we were forced into dressing in quite that manner.
Oh, sorry. Tell me about it. Tell me about it's your thing you like most about him.
The thing I like most about Nigel, on a personal level, he's very good company. He's got a great sense of humour. What you see oftentimes on television when he's in a particularly jovial mood is what you get in real life. He really is that kind of guy. I like, in terms of politics, that he helped us. In fact, helped isn't the right word. He led us to. He was the main shareholder, if you like, in winning a referendum. It wasn't, as some people try to make out, Boris Johnson. It was Nigel Farage. I like all those things about him. I admire so much about him, but I also know that he lost his way a little bit. I think he's become more cynical, and I think he's fallen in with a bad crowd. And I think the route he's going down at the moment, if he's not careful, he will completely besmirch what should be a fantastic legacy. He will ruin that when people come to realise that a lot of the things that he's putting his name to either can't be done or can't be done at the same time as the next promise and the promise after, and the endless stream of promises coming out, none of which seem to have any idea of how they're going to be done.
I'm more optimistic than you, but it's not my views that matter here. I get a chance to talk about them every day. If you were to give Nigel Farage one piece of advice, what would it be?
Leave reform.
He leads it. He's not going to leave it. He's actually the favourite to be the next Prime Minister. I looked yesterday. He's 5-2, and the next person up is. Do you know who's
Richard
the next
Tice.
person in the list?
Richard Tice?
No.
Angela
Rayner.
Good
6-1.
Lord. Well, that is the best of a bad lot, isn't it? I actually think that Nigel isn't just a leader. I think he part owns it, doesn't he? But let's be straight about this. What Nigel needs to do, if he insists on continuing down this path, he needs to clear out some of the people around the top of that party who are only there because they're exerting influence through a large checkbook, and he needs to democratise that party, and he needs to start being honest with the British people about how he can do certain things. For example, mass nationalisations at the same time as cutting tax by over £80 billion whilst we're in a debt crisis. That'd be a good starting point. Go from there, and let's take things a bit more seriously now, Nigel, because it's not just a laugh now. You are favoured to be the next Prime Minister, and you've worked hard to get there. But don't be the next Prime Minister who completely takes the country down the pan with promises that can't be delivered, and you will finally be the last person who ruins people's faith in democracy in the UK. That's a danger that Nigel Farage is running, and he needs to think very carefully about what he's doing and who he mixes with and what people he allows to buy their way into his top table.
I'd still rather have Nigel in that jacket than Keir Starmer in anything, to be honest with you.
Crikey, if it's a choice between, Starmer and literally anyone, I think it'd be a close call, wouldn't it? I mean, let's be fair. Nigel's dress sense is pretty horrendous, but Starmer's whole persona is a disaster.
Yeah, and his obsession with Ukrainians, Vladimir Zelensky is incomprehensible. All right, last question for you. I really enjoyed talking with you. We'll get you on again really soon, if you're willing to come on to Unprecedented.
Always willing to come on with you, mate.
That is very kind of you. The question is, what are you up to at the moment? What are you doing?
I do a job as a salesman most of the time, so hence my fond support of a salesman earlier. I've been working locally, advising our local council on how they can apply zero tolerance to antisocial behaviour. And this is what I mean by the mechanics of how things work. I've been really fascinated by how you can make things work. And up until recently, I was running a a charity, which we've folded up now, but we got a few hundred young people through mental health coaching and boxing coaching. And I'm captain of a cricket team who are pushing for promotion in the last few games. So busy life.
Yeah, maybe you should take on Manchester United's coaching. They need a little bit of help at the moment. I laughed my head off when Manchester United lost to that lower
Grimsby
division. What was it? Was it Grimsby?
Grimsby.
Yeah. What a great moment for Grimsby. Absolutely fantastic. And when I watched it, a friend of mine said, that's what you get with Starmer. He's a Man U fan. He blamed Starmer for Man U's failure. I actually love it because all the fair weather friends who just supported Man U because they were the winners, they go down. I support Leicester City. We win the league once every 170 years, whether we want to or not.
Wolves through and through. We won it in the 50s, and that was about it. So
I used to have to change trains in Wolverhampton to get to my constituency. It's not the best station in the world, but there we go. Any chance of you going back into politics?
If I were to, it would be only on a local level. I'm not interested in national politics. Well, I'm not interested in being part of national politics. There's too much who you know, not what you know, that goes on within that. And also the political parties nationally, I don't agree with all of what they say, any one of them. But on a local level, I'd probably consider it, yeah.
And finally, if you were the Home Secretary, what would you do about the migrant crisis, Bill?
I would ensure that we, first of all, stopped further coming in, and then whatever that requires, whether it be a change in the benefit system in this country and tougher action on boats coming over. I would also stop paying the French immediately for the supposed help that they're giving us. And I would also then look at the closing down every single migrant hotel and putting all of the asylum seekers who are here illegally into the system for them to be deported to a safe country elsewhere from the UK. And I would be doing that immediately.
But isn't it the case that every single migrant who's come through France should be deported because they didn't stop in a safe country?
Yep, I agree. Anyone who comes here illegally have started the whole system, the process going by breaking the law. And anyone who says, "Oh no, they're asylum seekers, they can't come here illegally," they are not asylum seekers. They have left from France where they're not being persecuted. So anyone who comes here illegally should be deported. End of story. It's just a case of how we do that and to which country. I'm not a fan of negotiating with the Taliban to take people back, giving them millions of pounds just for them to behead someone on the airport tarmac. You know, that's not. I'm not going to go quite that far as some reform characters seem to have suggested that they would. But yeah, we've got to be sensible. But yeah, we've got to get them out, and we've got to prove to people we're not a soft touch anymore. That's all it's been. We're a soft touch. People think they can come here for money. They think they get in easy, and they can. It's time to just clamp down a bit. Find out how to do this properly without making it a field day for lawyers to fight the government and make millions. Let's work through it properly, come up with a proper plan, calmly, and get these people out.
Would it not be a reasonable defence if you're standing on the beaches of Dover or the southeast to say, I couldn't stay in France because it's dangerously embarrassing to live in a country where the president is Emmanuel Macron?
It would be a good defence were they not coming to a country where the Prime Minister is Keir Starmer.
Touché. I don't think we can upstage that. Bill, always a pleasure to talk with you. I suppose all I can offer you is, do you want people to follow you on X or something? Do you want to promote anything before you go? What are you selling? You're a salesman. What are you selling?
This morning I'm selling nothing. I'm just on here because I wanted to spend some time chewing the cud and discussing the issues of the day with yourself, which is always a great pleasure. I am on X. If anyone wants to follow me, it's at Bill Ethridge UK. But the main thing is I wanted to come on here, have an interesting discussion on a fun show with yourself, and I implore everyone watching, get following, subscribe, and let's back Lembers up. He's doing a great job as always, and it's always a great pleasure to be involved.
Thanks so much. We're going to clip that, use you shamelessly as an advert. Bill Ethridge, when Nigel Farage becomes the Prime Minister, I'll make sure you do get an invite to the tea party at Downing Street.
I doubt it.
If I get one, if I get an invite, who knows? Thanks very much indeed. That is Bill Ethridge. What a great guy. Really enjoyed his company. Have your say, go to X, and do enjoy all the other shows coming up today as well. So much going on here at Unprecedented. I really appreciate your company. Thanks to the team. More than anything, thanks to Bill Ethridge. I'm Len Topic. That was Len Topic Live.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You gotta work. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're gonna feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages,